What's going on, Buff Nation? Welcome back to another video. We got a lot to talk about today. Obviously, a big time commit from the transfer portal happened just a few days ago. It is St. Patty's Day, so happy St. Patty's Day to you. And right now, Coach Prime is going around on his book tour, so we're getting a lot of great clips, a lot of interviews. People are asking questions about his thoughts and opinions about things. We got the NFL draft coming up, so the conversation of his son going into the draft was brought up and where he wants him to go. Great conversation there. And then USA Today dropped an article about a very interesting recruiting bullet point, I guess we can call it. So we're going to talk about that, get your thoughts and opinions about it. Before we do any of that, you already know where I'm headed. The intro. I flushed my juice down in the club. Let's go, baby. Welcome back to another video, boys and girls. Be sure to smash the like button and subscribe if you're not already. Feels good to be back in the saddle, rocking and rolling. But a big addition to the tight end room, which I think is absolutely phenomenal here. This tight end room, I mean, a lot of sizes in there already. I think almost every guy is averaging around 6'4", 255. Sam Hart, coming from Ohio State, is now adding to that size, standing at a whopping 6'5", 255. Obviously, Shimon from Cincinnati, when they picked him up, thought that was a massive pickup. He has 2 years under his belt at Cincinnati. And what's interesting with Sam Hart here, although he's been at Ohio State since 2021, he's got 3 years of eligibility left. So must have used some red shirt and for injury and just red shirt in general to have that much eligibility left. And also, too, you're at Ohio State. A ton of talent was flooding that room that you're constantly having to work through and shift and sit behind. So although there isn't much, stat-wise from him from Ohio State, I think what they're getting here is going to be, one, another addition to that line to help block, but also just a big target for Shedeurs Sanders. And this is going to be a big year for Shedeur and a couple other guys we're going to talk about here shortly from the Colorado staff on just upping their draft stock, right, going into next year. But I think this is one of these pickups that it's not a flashy pickup. Not a lot of people are going to talk about it. Tight ends, they don't get a lot of love, I feel like, until maybe like the NFL. And even then, I mean, Kincaid from Utah was a big time draft pick. And Brock Bowers coming out this year, obviously people are looking at it, but there just isn't many of them. So it's easy for them to kind of get lost in the sauce. Like, yes, they're really good. We love them, but it's kind of just one and done. So again, we don't have much film, which is also the reason for the non-excitement. He was a 3-star coming out of high school. Those stars have since gone away due to the lack of playing time. But you're going to get a kid here that's going to grind, hustle, has a lot of playing experience. I believe 2 of the guys that are on the staff currently have switched positions to tight end. So right here, you've got a true tight end coming in with Sam Hartman. I think he will see a lot of playing time just given the room, unless some of these guys make some big steps forwards. But this to me, I think is, and this is what makes the portal so impactful, is you are getting a solid 3-star to 4-star, in my opinion, tight end that's going to be able to plug in and be effective right away. Although he hasn't had much playing time, I think being able to be growing up in that Ohio State Buckeye system is going to show very early on. And we'll see in the spring game, obviously, and obviously when spring practice starts tomorrow, March 18th, I believe. So big time stuff there. If we'll get some clips from that, we'll definitely be talking about that. That's going to be exciting to see. So maybe we'll see a little bit. He's just getting there, but I imagine he will be on the football field. Now, like we mentioned earlier, Coach Prime is right now roaming the world, doing his big tour, doing a lot of great interviews. He was asked about, Shedeurs Sanders, and they're talking about Caleb Williams, who's looking to go to the Bears. They just traded Justin Fields. They are making room to go after Caleb Williams, the quarterback out of USC, who was at Oklahoma prior to that, but he is from California. And Coach Prime was talking about that. I said, look, when you're drafting these kids, you got to take that into consideration of where they're from. This kid plays most of his career at Oklahoma and California. Now you're going to go and take him and pluck him in Chicago, where 80% of the season is in the damn near snow, right? So it's like, he was just kind of saying, like, as his team, I would think about, is he going to be his most successful playing in this environment, given his entire career? He hasn't had to play in negative below. Those guys from Ohio, Michigan, they're used to that stuff. So Chicago is no big deal. And what he kind of started getting to is like, look, I don't want Shedeur to go to a cold place. I don't want him to play at a Chicago or a Green Bay or maybe even a Denver. It gets pretty chilly out there in Broncos country. I think Prime, if he had to choose, the Cowboys is going to be that slot for him. And look, Dak is kind of in a weird place right now. I'm not quite sure where his contract stands, but Shedeur is going to be the number 1 draft pick next year. I looked up a way too early 2025 NFL, and it has the Tennessee Titans at number 1. Obviously, nobody knows how it's going to play out yet, but they said if Tennessee, they're projecting number 1, their quarterback situation is definitely up in the air. But this particular particular mock draft had Shedeur and Travis going 1-2. So I thought that was pretty cool. And I was thinking, look, it's very possible, depending on the year that Shiloh has, there could be 3, maybe 4 buffs that go first round next year. Now, getting way ahead of myself, I understand that, but Shedeur is hands down going to be the number 1 pick. And look, hearing him talk about that, it is going to be interesting and fun to watch and see how next year plays out with the NFL, to see who does get that first round draft pick and what teams start taking for him. This year, here's what makes it interesting. This year, in my opinion, is a very stocked quarterback class, way more than it was last year. And last year was a very healthy, fun quarterback class where you get a generational quarterback. And now they're going another year. So a lot of teams are going to pick up their guys. You got the Steelers that just got their guy with Russell and Justin Fields. Chicago's going to have their guy. The Patriots don't have anybody with the trade of Mac Jones. So there's definitely some teams open, but we're starting to see that new wave of quarterbacks coming in. Not saying that people aren't going to still do it, but look, Titans make sense. They don't have one. Arizona, Kyler Murray, not kind of solidified. Again, I'm just kind of thinking of areas of, teams of need of a quarterback. The Rams, Matt Stafford's getting old. That will be a fun spot. Again, Dallas and Dak, that might not be a long-term thing that's happening. So very interesting to see. And what will be fun to let's watch what happens is to see who is chomping at the bit to go after that number 1 draft pick. I believe Caleb Williams, his draft stock is not as high as he may believe it is, or some that are claiming that it is. I don't believe that it should be. But look, I think Chicago's all in on going after Caleb Williams, especially with the trade of Justin Fields. So anyways, interesting thoughts on Coach Prime talking about how he doesn't want his son to play in the cold and wants him to go somewhere where he's grown up playing, which is, in Texas and obviously at Jackson State. And he's played here at Colorado, but look, the season's not cold, right? We don't play in the cold. It's cold, but not Chicago, Green Bay cold in the middle of December. And that is very true. And last but not least, there is a fun little article here that I've got to read to make sure I don't mess this up. So it's talking about his recruiting and him traveling to go and meet these recruits. And apparently Coach Prime didn't make a single in-home visit. Now, we never really heard about it. It didn't really dawn on me that he didn't make any in-home visits until I read this. I was like, oh yeah, we never saw these clips or heard about or pictures taken of Coach Prime with these kids at their house. It was always at Boulder, but it didn't dawn on me. Look, it's brilliant, right? Again, it goes back to the things that I talk about where you're trying to play ball with these big fish, and you have certain things that you can and cannot do. You have handicaps in a way to where you don't have as much spin as other coaches do. So you have to utilize certain tactics. And this is where, look, his book tour, him constantly going on TV, what he brings is it overcomes those objections because he's constantly recruiting, he's constantly marketing without having to do those things. Now, there's one thing that I did read where, look, going into, the home, it's great to meet the parents, things like that, but you can bring the parents there. I do agree with being able to see the recruit in their in-home environment, how they're functioning throughout the house, right? Because they're in their territory. You'll see a little bit more of their true colors. I think that does play a little bit of a factor, but here's the other thing. We've talked about it time and time again. How many recruits from the actual recruits from 2024 they land? 7, right? The portal is what they're attacking. And he still didn't do any of that. And obviously, it's working with a top 25 class overall, including the portal for the last 2 years, because the kids that are in the league currently, who you wouldn't really go and have an in-home visit with anyways, right, are wanting to see what's happening in Colorado, are wanting to go to Colorado. So it makes sense. He had a $200,000 budget, didn't spend a single dime of it on traveling. When somebody like Harbaugh had 145 off-campus trips and contacts, and there was another coach I think who had 128, Steve Sarkisian. And what's interesting is they also compared him to Chip Kelly, coach of UCLA, who didn't make much visits at all. Really kind of, his recruiting tactics were very criticized because he didn't really do anything of it, but he didn't have the alternative, which is the Coach Prime effect, right? It's two different things there where that doesn't work. You Chip, no one's talking about or thinking about Chip unless you're at the door knocking on it. Coach Prime's constantly in front of your face and knocking and ready to rock and roll. But again, his tactics also different because he's attacking the portal. He's attacking a completely different brand. And when you've landed 2 top-tier recruits in Kermani McLean and Jordan Seaton, those guys went to Colorado. They wanted to see what all the hype was about. And look, I love it. Will it long-term be successful? I don't know. And I think that his whole tactic here, which we talked about before, the 40-40-20 rule, it's left to be unknown. Nobody has an answer yet, but there is this obviously with Saban stepping away and constantly talking about, and he's been a big advocate about NIL. And the reason why he did step away is that the mindset of these players have changed dramatically since when he started. He even talked about how Miss Terry would speak with the mothers and have conversations and how they can trust her to take things over. And part of the conversation this past year go around was like, Coach, all they want is money. And so things are changing. So when you would go in home visits to talk to the mom and have these one-on-one conversations, that's not happening as much anymore anyways. It's just business. So when you've got somebody like a Coach Prime that is completely flipping the wheel, it's like, is he just doing it just to be unorthodox, or is he already just ahead? Is he a few chapters ahead? Because where things are headed, look, it's a business deal. That's what we're working on. So come make this a business deal, and we'll figure out the rest. I don't need to come hang out at your house. No need for that. The money that I spend there I could be given to you in a deal. So come see me if you really want to be serious and play here. Come see me. We'll talk about it. But I'm not gonna fly all the way to, somewhere in Mississippi, Louisiana, or Florida, when ultimately you're gonna be living here for the next 4 years. Bring your family here. Bring your parents here. I'll talk to them here. Look, it's different. I love it, and it's at a point where it is so different that it is intriguing, and people are like, you know what? I want to know what all the hype's about, and he has that advantage. Will this work for other coaches? Absolutely not, and that's what makes it even better because this plan doesn't work for everybody. Damn near don't work for probably most people, to be honest with you. Just given the circumstances, they don't have the same popularity as Coach Prime has. So it is fun. I want to know down in the comment section your thoughts on this situation. Is it a smart move? Do you think he can maybe make a few more in-home visits, or Coach Prime is going to continue? I mean, look, he's going to do whatever the hell he wants, but it is, again, it's different. So people are kind of, it's a head scratcher, and people will point to the recruiting class finishing at 120th as like it is a failure. But if we've been following this along and talking about it, you and I both know that isn't the case. That isn't he's succeeding exactly what he's game planning for. Now, if you want to argue that his 40-40-20 method is unsuccessful or a failure, that's a whole other conversation for another day, and I'm here to go about that. But I don't think there's been enough time yet to determine whether or not that will work. So you guys have been fantastic. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. If you did, of course, smash the like button and subscribe. I always want to hear from you guys in the comments. I mean, you're going to hate more than likely about something, but the ones that give your thoughts and actual opinions, I appreciate it dearly. So continue to show your love and your support, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace, baby.